Hearing no money, no job, you might think that must have been a really hard life. But here's the interesting part. Researchers say these people actually had to work far less than we do today. Maybe just 15 to 20 hours a week. No phone, no office, no salary, no bank. Not even the word job existed. So how did they survive? The question sounds simple enough, but the answer is hidden in one of the most fascinating chapters of human history. For roughly hundreds of thousands of years, humans lived under a completely different set of rules. No paid work, no money changing hands. And yet, they survived. They multiplied. They even built societies, cultures, and art. All of it. The question is, how was that even possible? Ancient human economies ran on an entirely different logic. There was no money, true, but there was one thing: a direct connection with nature and dependence on one another. Those two things together were their real salary, getting food. Nature itself was their marketplace. Today, we walk into a supermarket and pay money for food. For ancient humans, the marketplace was the entire forest, the river, the open plains. Every day began with the same question: what can we eat today, and where do we find it? The men would often head out to hunt, chasing animals or setting traps. The women, children, and elders would gather together, collecting fruit, roots, nuts, honey, wild greens. It sounds simple enough, but behind it lay an enormous body of knowledge. Which fruits were safe to eat, which were poisonous, which season brought food to which place, how to read the movement of animals. This knowledge passed hands, generation after generation, taught directly, hand to hand. Here's an interesting thing. They had no fixed salary, true, but nature itself paid them, according to the season, according to the effort put in. Spring brought more fruit. Winter often meant relying more heavily on hunting. So people adjusted their entire way of life to match nature's own rhythm. That, in fact, was their real work schedule, built around sunrise, the changing seasons, and the migration of animals. Dividing the work, everyone was part of one team. Just as a modern office has different departments, accounting, marketing, tech, ancient groups also had a natural division of labor. But this division ran on age and ability, with no appointment letters involved. The strongest young people went hunting or fishing. The experienced elders taught skills, told stories, kept the group's rules and traditions alive in memory. Women often handled food gathering, childcare, and handiwork, weaving clothing, shaping pottery. Even young children started learning early, often through play, how to identify fruit or how to build a fire. There was no boss here giving orders. The whole system instead ran on mutual understanding and shared experience. Whoever was good at something did more of it. And most importantly, nobody received a separate salary for their work. Whatever was gathered got shared across the whole group. That was their real economy. Give your labor, share the results. The barter system, trading without money. That said, this doesn't mean ancient humans never made exchanges. They did, just through a completely different method, what we now call the barter system. Say one group had plenty of fish but needed animal hide. Another group had plenty of hide but no fish. The two groups would meet and simply trade goods directly for goods. No money was needed, no bank record required. Trust was their only real contract. This barter system wasn't limited to physical goods either. Knowledge, skills, even protection got traded too. One group might teach another how to make better weapons and receive food or shelter assistance in return. Slowly, this built up into a complex but genuinely functional social network, the very first seed of today's economy, even without a single coin involved. Safety and support. The group was their insurance company. Today, we rely on insurance when we're sick, on pensions when we're old. Ancient humans had none of that, but they had something arguably stronger: their own group. If someone fell sick, the rest gathered food for them. If someone grew old, they weren't cast aside. Their knowledge and experience were valued instead. Children weren't just their parents' responsibility. They belonged, in a sense, to the whole group. This mutual dependence was their greatest safety net of all. And really, this is where the most important truth was hiding. The real key to ancient human survival wasn't money, wasn't a job, it was relationships. No one survived alone for very long, but as a group, they endured across countless generations. The more someone contributed to the group, the more respect and reliance they earned. That was their version of social status, built not on a title or a salary figure, but on contribution and trust. Shelter and tools, everything built with their own hands. Not having a job didn't mean their hands were idle. Quite the opposite. Every single day was packed with work. Alongside gathering food, they had to build everything themselves: homes, weapons, clothing, tools. Wood was cut, stone was ground down, bone was carved, and out of all this came everything they needed. None of this counted as a job, but its importance was no less than any modern profession. A good spear meant a real chance at a successful hunt. A sturdy shelter meant real protection from the cold. These skills were taught from early childhood, learned hands-on from parents, and from the experienced people within the group. And for all this work, there was no salary, but there was something else. There was the certainty of survival, and a real place within the group. In today's terms, that was their salary: safety, respect, and the feeling of genuinely belonging to a community. Leisure, festivals, storytelling. Was survival really all there was? There's a misconception worth clearing up here. Many assume that ancient life was nothing but a constant struggle to survive, endless labor from morning to night. But research tells a different story. In many hunter-gatherer societies, people spent, on average, only 4 to 6 hours a day gathering food. The rest of the time went into rest, storytelling, singing, dancing, and simply being together. Sitting around the fire, they told stories of their ancestors, shared knowledge, and crafted ornaments and art. This was, in fact, the birthplace of their culture. Without the pressure of any job or salary, purely out of the need to survive together, they built language, stories, beliefs, and social norms. The very foundations our civilization still stands on today. So what's the real lesson here? In today's world, we often think surviving without money and a job is simply impossible. But history tells a different story. Ancient humans survived for hundreds of thousands of years under a completely different system. One built directly on nature, mutual cooperation, and trust. They had no job, but they had work. No salary, but they had sharing. No bank, but they had their group. One that was, in its own way, more reliable than any bank could ever be. Today, as we sit with the pressures of modern life, worrying about salaries and job insecurity, this ancient system leaves us with an important question. Do we really need only money to survive? Or is there something even more important? The trust and mutual dependence we may be slowly losing in the rush of modern life. This chapter of human history isn't just a story of the past. It's a mirror, one that shows us what survival could actually mean beyond money altogether.